Today we're going to look at some embroidery stitches that make really good flowers. If you're anything like me, you think you can't draw, then these flowers are great because they're essentially just stitches. You don't have to draw anything if you don't want to. We're going to start with a woven rose. If you see this on a kit, quite often it'll just be a blank circle. And you might want to draw some spokes inside that circle, but you don't have to. But what I'm just doing to start with is 5 like spokes of a wheel, pretty much the same size. So you might want to draw these out if you're unsure, but you don't have to, because flowers in nature are not often perfect, so don't worry too much about everything being perfect. So I've just done 5 spokes with 2 strands of embroidery thread. I'm now going to use 4 strands of embroidery thread. So when you do this rose, it is often quite chunky. You might see the directions say 6 strands. It might look nice in a yarn like a wool or even a ribbon, because you do want it to look quite thick. But I'm using 4 because I've just used the other 2 strands. You do want quite a long length, which potentially can get a little bit messed up, but it will save you swapping in the middle of what you're doing. So now you're going to come up very close to the middle, wherever you want. Then we're going to do some weaving, really. I'm going to go over the stitch you're closest to and under the next one. Then over and under. Over and under. And we're going to keep going around like this. You're not actually going to go into the fabric again until you've finished going round. If you do enjoy the weaving, I have done another video on weaving a little embroidery brooch, which is quite nice. You can see the flower is already starting to take shape. You might find it easier to go under using the blunt end of the needle. And it is kind of a two-handed job. As it starts to build up, just sort of rearrange it with your needle. You might want the leaves overlapping, the petals overlapping really close, or you might want it quite flat. Getting to the end now, and you essentially just want to make sure that your spokes are covered. So you can arrange the stitches how you like. Start to flatten them down a little bit. Just keep going until it's all covered. When you're happy with it, you just come down back into the fabric and do your closing stitch or your knot on the back, however you prefer to finish it. Arrange it a little bit, and there we have a lovely woven rose flower. You can mix it up a little bit. You could have a couple of little leaves coming out here. You could have some really big ones with some small ones nestled around it. You can leave the centre blank and fill with a different thread or different stitch like a French knot. So it is quite versatile, but it just looks like a flower on its own. You don't have to draw it. It is a flower. The next flower stitch we're going to do is Lazy Daisy. You've probably heard of this one. So come up through the fabric. I'm just using 2 strands because I don't want this too chunky. And you're going to come down just next to it. I've left a little open, but it is a very tiny stitch space that you will leave. And come up however long you want your petals to be. So there is some variety in this. You can have smaller kind of chunkier petals or long elegant thin ones, and it will be the same stitch. So we've come up, we've gone down, and we've come up the length of a petal away. You're going to wrap your thread around your needle. Pull it tight. See a little chain or a petal, and this top stitch becomes your securing stitch. That's what's going to keep it in place. Come down. Because the petals, we're going to go round in a slight circle. I'm not sure how many we can fit, maybe 6 or 7. Depending on the angle you come out of. So come up and come down with half your needle, and before you go all the way down, come up the petal length away. I'm not sure I'm explaining this very well. Hopefully you'll be able to tell what I'm doing. Pass your thread behind your needle, come up and out, and then secure your stitch. Boop. I'm working in quite a big hoop, so I can't get it too close to the camera. So try and keep your thread to the left. Come up, go behind your needle, and do your securing stitch. So you can see there's actually quite a big hole in the middle, which you can leave blank because it'll still look like a flower. But potentially you could fill it with French knots. If you do white petals with yellow French knots in the centre, it'll look like a daisy. You can also fill the petals in, so it can be left as is, but you could do a couple of little stitches of a different colour or the same colour within the lazy daisy itself to make solid petals, but most often you do see it left open, sort of a style in itself. And if you do it really small, then, oops, it didn't come up, but that's fine because I'm holding on to it. If you do it really small, then the threads sit very close together and you can't actually see that there isn't stitches in between them. So I just did that stitch slightly differently and it's come up a little bit short, as you can see. Come up. You can do it like that, there's nothing wrong with doing it like that, but you could also go around a second time adding stitches around the back. It's up to you, but it is a stitch that really just lends itself to being a flower, so you can add it to your design without worrying too much about having to draw lots of flowers. There we go, that is your lazy daisy flower. The last flower stitch we're going to look at is the tassel stitch. I've got the pink thread here and it's six strands. You're not actually going to sew with the 6 strands, so you can use the full amount. You're going to wrap it around your fingers or a piece of card or a ruler or something. About 15 to 20 times. Gently pull it off. Snip it. And pinch it in the middle a bit like a bow. And we just need to secure that. So I've just got some green. I want to kind of secure it in the middle. Bit tricky because I'm trying to hold it down and sew it at the same time. But just some over stitches. Once the first one is done, you can mess with it, centre it up. I would do a couple. Just to hold it in place. Then we're going to push it up. This is going to make a bit like a thistle flower. So what we're going to do is we're going to get some more green and sew a little sort of cup shape along the bottom. Go about a third up. Pinch this together at the top now. You do want it quite tight. There we go. I think that's okay. And again, it's just over stitching, going over your thread and back down again. So nothing too complicated. But it is fiddly. You do need two hands. You need to slightly start working your way down. Again, this might be really nice done in thicker wool type thread. But it is really simple, and then you could just add, you could put some leaves at the bottom like a thistle, or just a straight stalk to embellish it a bit. But on its own it does just look, well, it will do when we're finished, like a flower head. Going over the base is the tricky bit. There we go. So you could leave it like this. It looks like a little bit of a scruffy flower. What we're going to do is we're going to take pretty much the shortest length and even off all the ones that are too long. And then we have 3 embroidery stitches that can be used as flowers without any drawing involved. Lazy daisy, woven wheel, rose and tassel stitch.